Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rebel Chumps channel. Today we're going to discuss another point of custom lightsabers, a used phrase that you hear a lot, and that is tactile switches. What are tactile switches and what they serve? Now, in my opinion, what you always want is to have a lightsaber that has a main switch and an aux switch or tactile switch. And I'm going to show you what I mean. And I'm going to use it again. It's the Graflex. Yes, you have seen it many times. Maybe you get bored of it, but it's such a good platform to actually show the plus and points and plays and the blasts and the blues. You can configure, for example, you can wire up this Graflex the way you want. You can have the ESB version with the two red buttons. You can have the Glass Eye version like Ray's lightsaber. You can do many different setups with a Graflex kit. But this one has two buttons. So this one could be wired up as the main switch to ignite the lightsaber blade and attract the lightsaber blade like psh, lightsaber blade. Clear? This button is for the auxiliary switch options. Now you have probably seen a few of my lightsaber reviews as well already. If not, go check them out. I've done many lightsaber reviews. Many of the lightsabers have a tactile switch, and I show you how that works and what it does. But in short, the tactile switch ignites an auxiliary effect, a secondary effect. For anybody that's like myself, a non-English speaker, it's a secondary effect. It's a blaster effect, like a sound like coming out of the speaker, making a blast of like a. It's a lockup effect, like a lightsaber lockup effect. It's a special whoosh sound, like a lightsaber throw when you hold the button and swing really hard. So certain lightsaber soundboards, they have that option. There's tons and tons of options that you can have with auxiliary button. And I have owned lightsabers that had only a main switch and didn't have an auxiliary switch. And I got bored with those kind of lightsabers pretty darn quick. Because you only can ignite the lightsaber, attract the lightsaber blade. And I'm talking about lightsabers, for example, with NeoPixel. Beautiful lightsabers, but only a main switch. So you're going to turn on the lightsaber, turn it off. None of the auxiliary switch functions that the soundboards basically can give you can be operated because you don't have that secondary switch on the bottom of the lightsaber. Which is a big shame, a big letdown, because you don't use like 50% of the capabilities of the soundboard. So the main switch and secondary switch, I say, is a must for any lightsaber fan that want to have a lightsaber with sound, light, and flash on clash and all that good stuff. Go for the auxiliary switch option. And there's still companies out there that make lightsabers that only have the main switch wired and no auxiliary switch. And I don't understand why. I don't. It's a cost-saving thing, I guess. They don't have to drill a second hole. They don't have to put a 2 cents worth of tactile switch in there and a minute worth of an engineer wiring that up. I don't understand that, honestly. But the auxiliary switch, yeah, is a must on any lightsaber. It's truly a must. The location of the auxiliary switch can be anywhere. It can be next to the front ignition button. It can be on the side, can be on the back. It depends on the hilt design. It can be anywhere. It doesn't really matter what the placement is on the hilt where that secondary button is, or how it's engaged. As long as you have that secondary button there that's actually function, it's a must. It's just basically you won't have all the capabilities of a lightsaber. And I'm looking now at Saberforts and Alter Sabers in particular. They have okay, decent soundboards. Not the greatest soundboards, but they don't use an auxiliary switch. And it's a big miss. I mean, being able to engage that blaster effect on 90% of my lightsabers that have an aux switch, let's say all the Vader's Fold lightsabers and many other brands out there, they have that too. I'm engaging the blaster effect. Sometimes I just ignite the lightsaber, no blade, just holding the secondary switch and making blaster effects where I'm trying to shoot down imaginary like clone troopers or whatnot, like because you can actually use that soundboard that's in that lightsaber in a blaster prop, and it's the same way. It's gonna be the exact same thing, except the motion, swings, etc. won't really be of use in a gun in a blaster prop. So yeah, auxiliary switch super important if you want to use your lightsaber soundboard to the fullest um, extent. Fortunately, Alta Saber Foes don't have that, so I really put them on the thumbs down for that, because it's a big miss. It's a big miss not being able to trigger the blaster effects, the lockup effects yourself, etc. Saber Force does have multiple functions under the main switch, so if you ignite your lightsaber, and then I believe if you press it like 2 or 3 times, it still have the lockup sound, but it's limited to 1 or 2 features only. With a secondary switch, you can have so much more options. So yeah, I highly recommend get a lightsaber that actually have a programmed aux switch that is connected to let's say an NAC soundboard or a Plectalab soundboard, because you're gonna get the most fun out of your lightsaber. And just ramming that button the whole time and making that blaster effect sound like I love that. I love that. I love that. I don't know, it's so addictive. So yeah, guys and girls, definitely check out for your lightsaber purchases. Does it have an aux switch? If you're gonna buy an empty hilt and you plan to wire it up yourself, try to get a hilt that already have an aux switch pre-drilled or drilled yourself if you have the capabilities like a vice and blah 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 blah. Then that's great, but a lot of people like myself don't have it, so it needs to be pre-drilled. When I buy a lightsaber, check out if they have that aux switch hole there, because you definitely want to have all the features and functionalities out of your soundboard. Because it gives you the max range of capabilities, and that's something you really want. So hopefully that video was a bit of informational to you. I do have to say one more thing before I end the video. The placement of the aux switch is kind of important. That's a big thing I noticed over many lightsaber reviews, in particular with my earlier reviews of the Vader's Vault lightsabers. Some of the hilts, like the Vader's Vault Acolyte, I didn't like how deep and how shallow, how short the hole was recessed. So what I mean was, like, you have the little tactile recessed, little tactile button on the bottom of the Vader's Vault Acolyte. So you press that, ignites the blaster effects and whatnot. But it of course has to be drilled into the hilt, and then it has like a little dimple like this in the hilt. And then here, this is, let's say, the tactile switch button itself that you press down to make the effects. And it has like this little dimple that is around where you can put your thumb on, so you have a nice resting point and a nice press on the tactile switch. But what I noticed is that some of the tactile switches holes, they were very deep like this, and then the ball, the top of the button of the tactile switch lays quite deep inside that hole, and then it's hard to press. Then I have to use my fingernail, I have to move my finger to actually press in that little sticky, tiny, stiff button. I don't like that. So some other companies like Sabermask do it really good. Also, I also think that's what Ultimate works. They actually have the button that actually sticks out a bit. Instead of being recessed inside the hilt, it sticks out a bit, because then it's super convenient and easy to press. Because by default, the tactile switches are a bit harder to press. There's a bit more tension on them to press in the button itself, like pressing in the button with those tactile switches. And that feedback is so much more convenient if the button is flush with the surface or sticks out a bit from the surface of the hilt. And it's just so easy to trigger those blaster effects and whatnot. I really like that. But the downside is accidental triggering of effects that you might not want to have when you duel. So again, I also have that argument, when you go dueling, you probably wear some sort of dual gloss, so you're definitely not able to engage the little button with big dueling gloss. Because if you don't wear dueling gloss, you can actually break fingernails and fingers in bones. You can break bones. So you definitely want to wear proper gloss. Tip from a non-dueler to a potential dueler. That being said, the tactile switch placement is an important factor as well. That is definitely important. I like them shallow, sticking out a bit from the surface, because I'm not too worried about accidental triggering a blaster effect or lockup effect. I'm not too much concerned with that. I'm much more concerned with the convenience of the experience when I'm pressing that button and how I can press that button. And I definitely think, for example, Sabermach lightsabers have a very pleasant way of pressing those buttons. Really convenient. I really enjoy those buttons on those hilts, those tactile switches. So hopefully this video was informative. Thank you for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.